Welcome back to my channel, or if you're watching for the first time, hi! Oh my god, it's been so long since I last posted something, and for my two regular viewers, I deeply apologize. There were a lot of complications in getting this video out, specifically when I realized I didn't have enough of a certain color diamond that I kinda needed. So I wanted to order more, but thanks to the Canadian postal strike and other factors, I couldn't order them for several months. Anyway, this is a reading of my short story, The Great Thief Priscilla. I wrote it about 2 years ago, but recently polished it up for this reading. The story is kind of separated into two sections, an introduction and backstory, and the other half is getting into a specific scene. I asked some folks on Casting Call Club if they'd read for the characters for me, and I'm thrilled to have them. Check the description for them, they're fantastic. One more update I've got to get out of the way. Monologue Mondays is cancelled. I'm sorry, I couldn't get it off the ground. But I do want to preserve the work that's already been done, so the first, and now only, episode will stay up. With all the housekeeping done, I think, I hope you enjoy my silly little story.
The world has no need for you. Priscilla knew that the fathers of the girls in her books would never say that to their daughters. Deep down, Priscilla always knew that her father was cruel and cold, specifically to her. But her father was king, and surely there was a good reason for that, right? The kingdom he ruled, Andrelia, was supposedly large and prosperous. Not that Priscilla would know. She wasn't allowed to. Her whole life had been spent within the walls of the castle, not allowed to meddle in the affairs of the state, military, or even social circles, because the world had no need for her. The world already seemed so large and terrifying from within the walls of the castle. What good would come of inserting herself into it? More chaos? She simply did not want to bother anyone with her presence. She kept quiet every day. Most days, she wouldn't even leave her room. She sat by the fire, reading the same stories over and over again. Stories about great heroes or cunning queens. Every word felt like magic on the paper. Sometimes, when she read, she'd long to be part of those worlds, to go on daring adventures and find true love. But the world had no need for her. Until the day her father announced that she'd be married. Prince David of Noverwick, a cold and ruthless war-hungry tyrant, did not have the best reputation. Even Priscilla knew that, with her limited knowledge of the world outside. Yet, deep down, she naively hoped that perhaps it would not be so bad. She knew that that thought was naive, and she knew it would be a miserable existence. But right now, optimism was the only thing keeping her alive. And she had to live through this. After all, she was finally useful to her father. Since the world had no need of her, she would settle for being useful to her father. For the first time in her life, he summoned her to the throne room. He looked at her and told her that for once, he was happy to have a daughter. He didn't care what kind of person she was. He was just happy to have someone to marry off for this alliance. He had sent the dowry in advance, well guarded with his best men. Priscilla had heard him say that they had to take the back roads due to the rise of him. Priscilla didn't know who this him was, but when she asked the attendant with her, he quickly explained that there was a robber targeting the nobles that traveled the main roads. Funny how her father was sending her along the main roads to Noverwick then. She would be well guarded, of course, but the fact remained that he put more security on the treasures than that of his own daughter. But it didn't matter to them in the end. All the prince really wanted out of the deal was the money. The beautiful, quiet, knows-her-place wife was just a bonus. Her father didn't come to say goodbye to her as she left on her journey. None of the servants even bid her farewell. None of them really remembered her anyway. She was forgotten, even in their eyes. Sometimes, Priscilla felt as if she didn't even exist at all. The ride would only be a day or two. Priscilla wore a fine but comfortable pink dress fit for traveling, but also fine enough that her soon-to-be husband would be pleased. He had to be, after all, as he needed this alliance to keep his people from revolting against him. Priscilla had been silent for most of the journey. She didn't want to bother anyone with her many questions, and she had never really made any friends with the servants and guards going with her. So there she remained for 2 days' time, silently awaiting her future in Noverwick. On the dawn of the second day, upon reaching the top of the cliff, Priscilla could finally look down upon her new home, and upon the sight of it, there was hope in her heart once again. Noverwick was beautiful. She knew it was close to the ocean, connected by a ford that led to the mainland, just off Ireland. She knew there was only one road into Noverwick, through a dense forest. But she hadn't imagined this. The road, she could see from the top of the cliff, made a gradual spiral downwards, towards the kingdom below. A port of water separated the cliff where they stood, and the kingdom below. She could see the whole kingdom from up there, the grand and majestic castle with its crimson-red flags, the streets bustling with life, and, of course, a large monument of a sword, one large enough that she could see it from the cliff above. But Priscilla's eyes were drawn to the poorer district. She could see how cramped it looked, with so many people flitting in between the narrow streets. Most of the homes were dilapidated in one way or another. She withered back from the view. She was a princess. She knew her life had been much more privileged than others, even if she had nothing to compare it to. But she could have never imagined the common, everyday suffering of the people in that district. As the carriage entered the wood which spiraled down towards Noverwick, Priscilla looked out at the trees. They were green and leafy, unlike the dense pine forests of Andrelia. The lovely early morning sun cast a warm glow through the leaves. She sat silently as the carriage marched on, entranced by its simple beauty. And then, chaos erupted. The horses neighed in terror, the carriage jolted to a halt, and the guards began to shout. Priscilla took a moment to peer through the curtain, heart racing. She watched in confusion as a collection of men, all dressed in crude, basic gear, emerged from the trees, weapons glinting in the sunlight. The clash of steel followed, swift and brutal, as Priscilla heard the guards struggling to fight back, before finally there was a silence, and then the door to the carriage swung open. Priscilla looked upon the person who opened the door, and her eyes widened fractionally. He was a young man who couldn't have been much older than 20, so around her age. He stood tall, with a muscular build. His chestnut brown hair, swooping dramatically away from his face, fell to a small, crude ponytail that sat on his shoulder. His gear and attire was simple, yet sturdy, all in shades of brown and green. Priscilla's heart pounded. She had seen pictures of handsome young heroes in her books, but they didn't compare to reality. He looked at her with a sly grin mixed with a touch of boyish delight.
"Good morning, miss,"
he said, his Irish accent bouncing.
"Lovely fight you guards put up. Really gets the blood pumping."
He didn't say it maliciously, but rather that he was enjoying the thrill of it all. Priscilla stared in wonder. She'd never met someone her age, let alone of the opposite sex. Mostly, she was just confused as to what was happening. There was an awkward moment of silence, as even the boy appeared confused as to why she wasn't speaking. And then, Priscilla's face lit up. She beamed.
"Oh!
She realized.
This is a robbery!"
She exclaimed, probably too excitedly. The young man was caught off guard by her earnest response. Still, he couldn't help but smile as he settled back into his natural attitude.
"Indeed it is, my lady,"
he said, going along with it.
"I'm here to rob you of your valuables,"
he said, with the energy and delight only youth could bring. Priscilla nodded.
"Right. Yes. I've read about this."
She paused, trying to remember what to do in this situation.
"I get out of the carriage now, yes?"
The young man smiled patiently.
"Yes, that would make this much easier."
Priscilla, trying to contain her nervousness and excitement at something finally happening to her, picked up her skirt and stepped out of the carriage, taking the young man's outstretched hand. Her heart fluttered as their hands touched, if only for a moment. She stepped out and turned around to face him once again. Looking around, she could see what had happened to the guards. They were all unconscious, their chests moving with a steady beat. She looked upon the other men who had attacked the party. They were all roughly the same age, the youngest of the 6 only a teenager, and the oldest appearing late 20s.
My lady, I'd like to introduce my band. We're known around here as the Thorns. That's what the prince calls us, of course. We just thought we'd steal the name as well. And I,
He said with a flourish.
am Collin.
Priscilla stared in wonder.
You're a real thief?
One of the best.
He said, his face lit up in a brilliant smile.
And you'd be?
She curtsied, only reflexively. Collin looked surprised, but he bowed on instinct.
Princess Priscilla of Andrelia. It's lovely to make your acquaintance.
And how lovely to meet a lady who isn't screaming at me. I wish more nobles were like you. It'd make my job much easier.
Yes, I should think it would.
Priscilla said. There was another moment of silence as neither knew what to do.
Oh, yes. My valuables.
She put a finger to her lip in thought, then shook her head.
I'm sorry, but my dowry was sent ahead of me. It's already in the kingdom by now, assuming you didn't.
Already steal it, yes. We didn't catch wind of the transport, actually. You really have nothing of value on you?
Priscilla shrugged sympathetically.
I'm sorry. This must be terribly disappointing.
Collin took a step back, pacing. He was clearly deep in thought.
You said Princess Priscilla? Of Andrelia?
Priscilla nodded.
Yes?
Collin took a step closer.
Then you're the one who's set to be married to Prince David.
He clicked his tongue, as if he'd come to a decision.
Then, madam, I think we can arrange something after all.
Priscilla didn't have time to react as Collin drew his dagger and pointed it towards her. She froze up, but somehow she could sense that there was very little danger. Her guards had been left alive, after all.
You'll be coming with us now, princess,
He said, and while his voice was bright, there was a certain sternness that crept in under the surface, as if he was actually serious this time. Priscilla looked around, seeing the boys surrounding her, and she knew that she didn't really have an option. Even if they suddenly decided to let her go, she had never been outside before. She wouldn't last a minute in a foreign land. Priscilla nodded.
I understand. Where are we going?
Collin lowered the dagger, surprised.
You are an incredible sword, Priscilla.
He said. He extended a hand to her, and she took it, a certain sparkle in her eyes. Here she was, experiencing the world. What a beautiful world it was, full of fascinating people. She wanted to know so much more. Even if the world had no need of her, she needed the world. She needed to experience all of it, everything it had to offer. And so, she let Collin lead her into the woods. Perhaps, somewhere along his path, she'd find her purpose, her own purpose, not the one others placed upon her. And that was the birth of the greatest thief in Noverwick, and her name was Priscilla.